What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 113 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. I really appreciate you listening. If you enjoy these podcasts, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends, or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled, Just Let Them Be Wrong. Welcome back to episode 113 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast entitled, Just Let Them Be Wrong. I want to give a big welcome to my friends in recovery from the U.S., South Africa, and Australia today for their participation in this group. As before, I'll be keeping them anonymous, but I'll be saying their answers as if we were having a live group meeting. So guys, here's today's topic for our group. It's way more important to protect your peace than it is to prove your point. Just let them be wrong. So guys, can you think of any instances where you have protected your peace in this way? Ben, would you like to start us out? I sure would, David. There's too many examples to list. This is a great statement, and it's one that I have had to learn from experience without a doubt. This isn't something I just woke up knowing was true. I was the guy who had to try and prove my point, only enter into a peace-stealing argument or conversation to learn that sometimes it's just better to keep my mouth shut and let them think they are right and go about my day. Because, to be truthful, people love to argue, and I'm one of those people. But I read one day to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And I decided to practice it. And wouldn't you know, it started to make me feel better, even physically. Being on the side of walking with and counseling people in recovery now, I've learned to let them pour out what's going on inside of them. And a lot of times, their perspective or viewpoint is in stark contrast to some of my viewpoints and boundary lines. Nonetheless, I've come to a place of extreme calm and settledness in letting them share how they see the world from their viewpoint, even if I am in total disagreement with it. What's neat is, once you let them pour it out without throwing your viewpoint on the table, they usually want to know how you feel anyway. And then they ask you about that, and you have a chance to share. I've learned, and trust me, I haven't gotten it right every time, but I've learned to share my viewpoint and to season it with words of grace. Sometimes you can say something a certain way and it just comes across wrong. You can say the same thing, the same words, just a different way, and it comes across with love, and suddenly it enters the heart of the person you're trying to help. Or even if you're not trying to help them, it's just someone you're talking to on the street. I've even seen people receive the perspective I have and to consider it simply because I chose to shut up and listen to them first and to actually be interested in their viewpoint and then wait for them to say, "Hey, what do you think, Ben? How do you see these things?" Anyway, it pays to get that chip off your shoulder and to be open to other perspectives while still holding on uncompromisingly with grace to how you see things. Wow. Good start, Ben. I can really see how that idea of, being quick to listen really can bring you peace because you're actually establishing relationship and rapport with someone before you think you have a better idea. Charlie, would you like to add anything? Sure, David. Early in my recovery, what others thought of me and said to me that I thought was wrong really upset me. So many times I heard in response, "Put the bat down, bro." When I'd call someone, I'd get so upset that each time I thought of going for a drink, and I was so disturbed. It became evident to me at one point that if I wanted peace in my life, I must not let myself get upset over things I couldn't control. So an example is I was working at a major retail chain, one of the top jobs in America. It was the dream job for someone who had spent 20 years in the business. And so here I was with that experience, but early in my recovery. And my priority was staying sober and becoming a better me. I was working on myself. The job needed me to utilize my business experience, as not many people understood the industry and had the knowledge that I gained over the years. But it was a sobering experience and very challenging to try to maintain my sobriety. And I guess I had to learn how to be humble. I had to learn humility in dealing with people, because they didn't want a boss who just bossed them around. And it was tough. At first I tried to teach them how to do the right way, and I just met resistance. But as time went on, with my support folks guiding me, I came to recognize that humility needed to be my role, and I needed to know my role. To not try to fight for the need to be accepted, or not try to make myself look right all the time just because of my experience. But it's better to just show up, do your job, go to lunch, do your job, and punch out for the day. So that's what I did. And I learned that lesson in humility was the best thing that I could learn, because it freed me from having to go around proving myself as the number one guy like I always had in the past. As time went on, I was even able to let go of this job and walk in a new job that God opened up for me. And I carried that lesson of humility in my new job working in a program of recovery. So this has been a good topic for me. Wow. Thanks so much, Charlie. That hands-on experience, and I like the way that you carried that number one lesson of humility from one job to another. So in letting someone be wrong, we learn humility, which betters us in the long term. So that's cool. Eddie, how about you? David, they say once an addict, always an addict. And because that's who I was for so long, when I started my recovery, many people second-guessed me and gossiped behind my back that I was probably still using. And I don't blame them. We really don't pay much attention to it, but protecting your peace of mind should be the main part of self-care. So I decided I needed to protect my peace of mind and live for my family. I had a lot of fixing to do and a lot of healing to do, so I decided to focus on that and me. I lived with conviction and purpose to what I wanted to achieve out of this change. And looking back, if I hadn't nurtured and protected my peace of mind, I would have just thought, what the heck? Maybe those people doubting me, maybe they're right. And I probably would have given up and lost my recovery. So I'd say prayer and a lot of hard work got me focusing on the more relevant stuff, the stuff that mattered, and that was protecting my peace. Strong words there, Eddie. Thank you so much. That really touched me, and I think that's an important thing, that as we let others be wrong, we're focused on protecting our peace, and we get to our goals. Gary, how about you? David, I believe this is a very important statement, that of preserving peace rather than proving your point, regardless of your conviction of knowing you're right. So for me, this statement basically implies that there's an argument over two different opinions about a specific issue between yourself and someone else. And what's important to know in these situations is that both parties end up arguing to prove that their opinion is the correct one. And as the argument progresses, if one person doesn't just shut up, the argument heats up, and each person becomes more firmly entrenched in their own way of thinking, and naturally their pride gets stirred up, and their pride is at stake. So it just keeps escalating and escalating, and I could give you hundreds of examples from my life. And I can tell you that when I let it happen, that it can breed resentment, indignation, and even hate between the two parties. And it can escalate into not just loud shouting matches, but physical violence and a long-standing feud that in the end, you lose your inner peace and everything is sacrificed, on this altar of being right. And as a result, you lose a friend, you lose an ally, and you have trouble making new friends. So I recognize that a much wider approach and attitude is the one of acknowledging the other person's point of view and avoiding the argument altogether. Shaw, Gary, great life lessons and very practical advice for us. Thank you. Harry, would you like to close us off today? Yes, David. To answer your question about one specific time that I kept my peace, it's a bit difficult because, like these other guys, it was an ongoing issue, especially in my early stages of recovery. People didn't believe me or ignored my suggestions because to them, I was still the no-good addict who didn't know much. And I've witnessed on many occasions, with my wife being present now, people who I allowed to be right end up losing their money or losing face for not taking my advice. At those moments, my wife always told me not to comment and to keep a straight facial expression when we find out about their downfall and not be one of those guys who says, "I told you so." And, I have countless examples, and the most recent one that I seem to be working with a lot are those families that have the son who's still caught up in drugs. And they get the call from the dealer saying, "Hey, your son's over here and he's on another one of his weekend binges and he's actually short a lot of money. So if you don't send some money over, we're going to have to take it out on him." And the family always agrees to send the money to the drug dealers. And I advise them that they need to stop paying for the son's drug stuff because, in my experience, I've never seen a drug dealer kill anybody over some money. And I'm living proof of that. I owed a lot of drug dealers a lot of money 8 years ago when I got clean after 20 years in my addiction. And today, they greet me, and we chat if I meet them. And they never ask about the money I owed them. So I tell this advice to people, but they refuse to listen. So I guess I'm still learning that I need to hold my tongue a bit. So what I'm trying now is I actually have made a voice note specifically when families call like that, and I can think of one specific family. And so every time they message me, I send them the same voice note, the same advice. And I pray that one day they will take that advice and save their money. Good practical words there. Thank you so much, Harry. And guys, thanks all of you for your input. I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people. And I'd like to close for everybody with the lyrics from a song by the Beatles, and it's entitled "Let It Be." Here's some of the lyrics. "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, She is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be the answer. Let it be. Shaw. Deep wisdom in that. If we can start by just letting it be in times of trouble, in hours of darkness, when people are confronting us and they're standing right in front of us, we can come to that day where the broken-hearted people living in the world of agree, because the answer is let it be. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you'd like to join an online group or get one-on-one counseling to help you learn how to protect your peace by letting them be wrong, we've got some open spots, so please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com, or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. I promise to get back to you in good time. Thanks for listening today, and as always, tune in Monday for our next episode. Stay safe and stay strong.